Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss today's viewer's choice, which is the legal action being threatened should Boris Johnson, if he becomes Prime Minister, attempting to close down Parliament in order to stop him taking us out of the EU against its wishes. But first, if you find yourself enjoying this video, then please consider clicking the like button and subscribing for further content. Now, the UK at the moment is marching inexorably on towards its third Article 50 deadline date, with no more prospect of obtaining a withdrawal agreement that would be acceptable to all sides. Now, in fact, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that believes that a deal will be agreed by October 31st, and so almost everyone in the UK, and certainly MPs in Parliament, are quite sure that this date will see us either remaining in the EU or leaving without a deal. Nothing else is possible. Now, the Brexit debate has become so polarised and devoid of reason that many supporting Brexit, though I hasten to add not all, believe that leaving without a deal is not merely acceptable, but preferable. Many of the Conservative Party members certainly appear to be of this opinion. And so it is that in order to win favour amongst the 160,000 Conservative members who will decide who our next Prime Minister is, the leadership contenders, whittled down now to Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt, have had to promise that we will be leaving the EU, and if no deal is the only way to do that, then so be it. Boris Johnson has taken the hardest line by determining that we will definitely leave on October 31st. He has said very clearly there are no circumstances under which we would still be in the EU come November 1st, 2019. But Parliament is wholly and overwhelmingly opposed to a no-deal Brexit, and so would take action to prevent us simply wandering over that cliff edge. So Boris Johnson, in order to convince the party members how serious he is, has implied that he would prorogue Parliament in order to prevent them stopping him. This process is used to close down Parliament for a brief period in order to end one session and begin another. It usually happens once a year, but hasn't actually happened for a few years, as it's intended that our current session is used to complete Brexit. Proroguing Parliament because your current legislative programme is complete and you want to begin a new one is normal. Proroguing because you want to shut down our democracy and behave as a dictator is not. And so many people have understandably taken umbrage to this. Now, several Conservative MPs have threatened to bring down Johnson's government in the event that he becomes Prime Minister and attempts to take us out of the EU against Parliament's wishes. But by the time they agree that the point of no return has passed, it is possible that Johnson could have shut Parliament down. Attempts to legislate to prevent Parliament being closed down in the period of October to December have been attempted with only limited success so far, though Dominic Grieve, who is the author of these attempts, has hoped that the defeated amendments will be added back at the House of Lords stage, and perhaps MPs will be shamed into supporting them when the legislation returns to the Commons in September. But with Parliament not yet having taken action to prevent Johnson forcing us out, others have threatened legal action should he do so. So John Major, the former Conservative Prime Minister, who called the ERG a bunch of bastards whilst he was in office, has threatened a judicial review. The review would have to be carefully worded. In our constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy, it is the Queen who actually closes Parliament down. However, she doesn't make the decision herself, and it's taken on advice. The Queen's action cannot be challenged in court, but Sir John believes that the Prime Minister's advice can. There are a number of dangers to the country in proroguing Parliament in this way. The first and most obvious one is that it will be done for the specific purpose of preventing Parliament from carrying out its democratic will. It would literally be the suspension of democracy in the UK, no different to the aftermath of the Reichstag fire. So Sir John made the point that the last time someone bypassed Parliament in this way, it ended up with civil war and the perpetrator having lost their head. Now, neither of these events is likely this time, but the consequences would certainly be severe and far-reaching. The idea that once done, Johnson could simply bring Parliament back and MPs would just accept the situation and quietly get on with things is beyond lunacy. Now, although Sir John is not quite correct, I have to say, Parliament has more recently prorogued in order to bypass normal procedures. In 1948, the Labour government prorogued Parliament when it was trying to reduce the power of the House of Lords to predictable opposition from the Lords itself. However, Johnson's proposal would be to bypass the elected House of Commons, and so would be on a different level. Another less obvious issue with proroguing under these circumstances is that the no-deal Brexit, which will already be extremely damaging, will become almost cataclysmic. Even the greatest supporters of a no-deal Brexit, Boris Johnson included, know that there will be huge disruption with such an event. This is why they're all promising to spend billions of pounds to smooth everything over, even though the Chancellor says that the money simply doesn't exist in the event of a no-deal Brexit. But with Parliament prorogued, the Prime Minister doesn't have access to that money. The government has no powers to spend the country's money. It comes up with proposals, budgets, but Parliament has to vote it through. So the issue of whether or not the country has the funds to support no-deal contingency plans becomes irrelevant. Without Parliament, no money can be voted to any of these schemes. But the legal challenges against proroguing this October don't end with the former Prime Minister. Gina Miller, who is the businesswoman who successfully took Theresa May's government to court in order to force her to get parliamentary approval for triggering Article 50 in the first place, has also threatened legal action. She's already written to Boris Johnson as the only remaining candidate to refuse to rule out proroguing Parliament, to warn him of the action should he do this. But there is still a serious question as to whether Boris Johnson really would prorogue Parliament in this way. He hasn't said that he definitely would, simply that he refuses to rule it out. He's taken a hard line because that's what will get him elected as Prime Minister. But many believe that although he most certainly would be willing to take us out of the EU without a deal, he would be less willing to kill off his own prime ministerial career by picking a fight with Parliament in this way. It is difficult to know just what Johnson understands of the consequences of what he proposes, but following through on this threat would definitely mean chaos around our borders, with the greatest concern being within Ireland, of course, and a hostile group of MPs, including many from his own party. When Parliament does return, facing an immediate general election would be the least of his worries. So some believe that he will stick to tried and trusted methods of bumbling along and blaming both the EU and the UK Parliament for us still being in the EU come November the 1st. Boris Johnson has only one political conviction, and it is not the UK's relationship with Europe, it is Boris Johnson. Many cannot believe he would sacrifice this grand ambition by falling upon his sword for this cause. But time will tell. I hope you find the video interesting. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please click on the Patreon link. And until next time, I'll see you later.